Hello, everybody. I am Gila Glassberg, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and intuitive eating counselor, and I am here with the one and only Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian, and I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself. Go ahead, Yaffi.
Thank you so much for having me, Gila. As you said, I'm Yaffi. I'm a registered dietitian in Arizona, and my focus is on perinatal and early childhood. And I am also very into intuitive eating and division of responsibility. And I'm very excited to be here with you tonight.
I'm so excited to have you. And why did I want to interview Yaffi? Because Yaffi and I are in a WhatsApp chat together, and Yaffi is always like the nutrition expert, and everybody always wants to pick her brain about what's up and coming in the nutrition field. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to like delve deep and talk to Yaffi is because I feel that intuitive eating is kind of like misrepresented, and I totally understand why, because it's like a really new like concept that like people don't have to diet in order to be healthy. So I kind of just wanted to ask you, Yaffi, like when you, I guess maybe you could just tell us how you like started on your nutrition journey, and then how you learned about intuitive eating and how you incorporate it into your practice.
Yeah, well, I kind of bumbled into intuitive eating. I didn't actually know that it was capital I, capital E, intuitive eating trademark. I My world was kind of shattered in a good way when a friend of mine was doing Ironman. And if you're not familiar with Ironman, it is this crazy triathlon that is an entire marathon running and then also a crazy amount of swimming and biking. And the whole thing takes 15, 17 hours long, and you have to be in peak shape to do this. This is nothing that I have ever been interested in training for. But my friend, who was in study groups with me, we were doing nutrition together. She was doing this. I wanted to support her. And when I showed up, waiting for my stereotypically tall and fit and thin friend to cross the line, I saw all of these people crossing the finishing line hours before her. These are people that I would have thought, I could help them lose 30 pounds or so. And they're accomplishing this amazing feat that I would never see myself doing, that you need serious stamina and the ultimate in fitness to finish this race. And these people were vastly different in size and different than what you'd expect from people who were doing this kind of crazy activity. And so it really just, it was like a lightning bolt to my head that these things are not related as we think they're related. People can be bigger and still compete on that level. I mean, you have to be a certain degree of healthy to do something like that. And these people were much larger than you would normally associate with health. So that really hit me.
Wow. I didn't even know that. That's so interesting. So then you started to do like research into other forms of health? Is that how it started?
Kind of. I just started. It takes a while when something like that's so against what we hear from society. It takes a long time for your brain to really marinate in it, to understand really the complexity of what's been witnessed. How does that affect what I've learned? How does that affect my view on health? And how do I move forward in helping people become healthy when now I don't even know what health really represents? How do you know someone's healthy? What defines health? So when I found intuitive eating as the official movement, it clicked. Everything just came into place, and it made so much more sense that people can be big and be healthy, and people can be smaller and be not healthy, and it just all fit together.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I just did a interview with Evelyn Tripoli, and she was saying that there's so many health professionals now who are taking the intuitive eating course because as they're, moving forward in their practice and they're trying to help people get healthier with weight loss diets, and they're finding that it doesn't work, they're like, okay, like I can't keep doing this, like this cognitive dissonance, like how could this, if traditional medicine or traditional healthy schools of thought are like, if you're X weight, then you're healthy. But meanwhile, you're saying like you're watching people run this crazy marathon Ironman, and they're not in the ideal body size, and they're totally healthy and fine. how could you rectify it, right?
Right. And it doesn't fit with our traditional learning. It doesn't fit with how we understand BMI and how we understand ideal body weight and terms like that. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't fit. So if it doesn't fit, we have to find some way for all of it to make sense. And by changing the amount that we weigh, by changing the number on the scale from being the goal or the determinant of health, it becomes part of the pile of here are a number of factors, and these could be symptoms rather than goals. I still believe that weight is an important number to know when we're looking at symptoms. I mean, God forbid, certain disease states come with rapid weight gain or weight loss. And
Mm-hmm.
if we don't have that information, then we might miss something.
Right.
But by looking at weight as the goal, as the determinant of health, rather than a symptom of something that's going on, we really miss the point. And a lot of people are getting misdiagnosed because of it, because of that focus on weight.
Right. And actually, like, I work in a clinical setting still. I work in a nursing home. And one of my jobs is that we track the weights very, very carefully. So most of the residents are weighed once a month, every month. But the residents who, either if they're new to the facility or if there's any reason to think that they might be gaining or losing weight for any reason, they're weighed once weekly. And it's actually a really great indicator of health, like their health status, if they've significantly gained or lost weight. That's how we diagnose things all the time. Like I'll notice like somebody has like a 30-pound weight gain, and that could be due to fluid retention, and that could be due to some sort of heart failure, that could be due to some sort of renal
Right.
kidney failure. So like, yeah, weight is a really important indicator as a sign or a symptom, but not in and of itself.
Right. Right. And as you know, fluid weighs a whole lot. So you can
Right.
see dramatic weight gain or weight loss in a patient. And that really does mean something important, but not what all these magazines would have us to believe it means.
Right. And like I just interviewed Evelyn Tribole, and she said such a good line that weight isn't a behavior.
Right.
So we're not really measuring the right things. Like we should be trying to, like I always say when people call me and they're like, how could you say I shouldn't lose weight? Like I want to get healthier. I'm like, hey, great, let's work on the healthy behaviors. Let's work on the behaviors, but we're not going to
Mhm.
necessarily work on the weight. Sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people gain weight, but most of the times when that happens, it's because they've been restricting for so many years. Their body's just like catching up to them.
Right. Right. And I can vouch for that personally, that I battled my body for a long time, and it's there's an amazing amount of peace on so many levels when you're able to stop doing that and focus on what's actually healthy. And it's not you forcing yourself to eat a kale salad, it's you learning to enjoy the food that's in front of you, whether that's pizza or whether that's kale. And of course, kale represents everything healthy now these days. You don't have to like kale to be healthy.
Definitely, that's definitely true. So, could you tell us a little bit more about like what you do in your practice? I know that right now you're moving away from like one-on-one counseling, but let's say like you would have a client come in and you're working with kids or you're working with adults to help their children. What would you say would be like a really practical tip to help with healthy behaviors, to improve healthy eating behaviors?
Well, to improve healthy eating behaviors as a family, the number one thing across the board is family dinner. And family dinner doesn't have to represent dinner. It can represent family breakfast or family lunch, family snack time, family cooking making party. It's spending time together and having laughs and creating positive associations over food. That's the number one thing you can do as a family. If you're single, if you're having dinner by yourself, you can still have a great time with that. You can focus on mindfulness. You can do a food meditation. You can enjoy all of the different sensory aspects that food comes with: the smell, the texture, the flavor, the feel of it. And really interacting on a positive level with your food is a fantastic way to improve your health, because when you can learn to appreciate the different sensory aspects of your food, then you can learn to desire different sensations with your food and different experiences with your food. You know, a lot of times we think that, oh, I have a sweet tooth. That means I like all sweet things. But, sometimes I want chips. We can appreciate different flavors at the same time. And sometimes when you can let go of all of the psychology that's making your decisions for you, rather than listening to your body and listening to what your body wants, when you can let go of that, sometimes you are going to want pizza or chocolate cake. And sometimes you're going to want an earthy quinoa salad with delicious pomegranate seeds and orange wedges. And you're going to let go of all of that negativity, and your body is going to say, hey, let's have something crunchy. Let's have something creamy. And it's amazing when you can get to that point and truly listen to your body. And that's just the healthiest way to move forward. And then, of course, there's joyful movement, which is another principle of intuitive eating. It's if you find that the treadmill is torture for you, get off the treadmill and go to a Zumba class or go do weightlifting or yoga. You got to find your jam and get with it. And it's just creating positive interaction with food and with your body. And that's really the best way to move forward. For the longest time, I've been saying it is much easier to add something to your schedule or add something to your plate than take something away. It's a more positive way to look at health, is just adding things. Okay, I'm going to have pizza. I'm also going to have a salad. I'm going to add some vegetables. I'm going to add a walk around the block. And that's just, I mean, if you're looking at this and saying, oh, it's January 1st in what, like 4 hours or something over here, 2 hours, but you,
Yep.
if we're looking at the secular calendar, okay, fine. This is like diet season.
Yeah.
If you want to make sustainable, healthy choices for the new secular year, try to add in something like that rather than take something away. Say, okay, I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to do some jumping jacks if you like jumping jacks.
Yeah, it's awesome for me to hear, and also for like our listeners to hear, because like that's so like, I guess, counterintuitive, or so like the opposite of what we've been told. Like, oh, the healthiest thing that you could do is like have a family meal. Like, what does that have to do with health, right? But it has so much to do with like what we associate, how we associate food. Is it positive or negative? Are you having food wars every single night with your kids to get them to eat their vegetables, eat your vegetables? Imagine if somebody was saying that to you every single night. It's like so annoying, and it does create this negativity, and it does create these like food wars. And then we also have that phenomenon that kids and adults won't try new textures. So you're really touching on so many different intuitive eating principles, like the principle of the satisfaction factor. Like, what is it that you actually like to eat? And I know one of the studies in intuitive eating even says that when you're enjoying what you're eating, your body actually absorbs those nutrients better.
Yeah, well, because stress is a huge factor. I mean, if we look at this, stress changes the pH of your stomach. So it makes it more alkaline. And of course, if you're paying attention to social media, alkaline is good, but really you want your stomach acid to be acid. It's called stomach acid. You want it to be acidic. And if it's too alkaline, then you're going to malabsorb certain nutrients. You're not going to absorb calcium adequately, for example, because you don't have the right amount of acid in your stomach, which changes the pH as the food moves through your small intestine into your large intestine. And it also, what it does is when that acid goes alkaline, it causes reflux because you don't have the right pH to tell your lower esophageal sphincter to close. And if you picture, let's say this towel is your stomach, and you have sphincters on either side that holds everything shut. And so you have food that comes into the stomach, and those sphincters have to shut tight because your stomach is going like this. And it's digesting the food chemically, but mostly mechanically as well. And if this sphincter isn't closed tight because your pH is off, then it's open, and then that acid is going to shoot into the esophagus, causing reflux, which is going to further create a negative association with food. And you're going to say, oh, I can't have pizza, it gives me reflux, or coffee, or milk, or whatever. So the very act of being stressed out changes your experience psychologically and physiologically at the same time.
Right. And that's where I guess like intuitive eating is so important. And like, besides for the physical components of nutrition, which are so important, and believe me, like I love nutrition and I'm a big nutrition nerd, but like seriously, if you're not managing your stress well, and food has become like your best friend and your only coping mechanism, then yeah, like you're gonna end up binging. Like you have to figure out the mental and physical components together. Otherwise, it's really hard to
Hmm.
sustain a healthy lifestyle.
Right. And when someone's binging like that as a coping mechanism, they're not enjoying those foods. Those
Right.
foods might be delicious, but you're not really tasting them when you're using it to fill a void.
Right. So what are other things that you like to help your clients like incorporate? I know like we hopefully we could talk about this. Like you have a budgeting boot camp or you have a meal planning boot camp, and that is this to help like meal prepping be easier and more positive? Like what's the goal of that?
Yeah, well, my program that I just released on Teachable is Save My Sanity, and I started out calling it a meal planning boot camp, but it was really so much more because when people sign up for that program, they get meal planning made easy, and that means made easy for your schedule and your budget and your taste buds and your family dynamic. But we also talk about budgeting, we talk about intuitive eating, we talk about division of responsibility, the feeding dynamic between parents and kids. We talk about how to plan for bumps in the road because you plan this delicious dinner and then get stuck in traffic.
Right.
So how can you have a backup? And I say going out for pizza is not a backup. You want to choose to go out for pizza because
Right.
pizza tastes better when it's a choice rather than when it's oh, we have nothing else.
Right.
Like who wants to pack up 5 kids and go out for pizza when you're already stressed out?
Right.
No, you want that to be on the schedule. You want it to be a
Right.
choice.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, there's we get into all that with that course, and it's that's really my passion is just helping people be to feel more confident with their parenting because that's how I like to fake it. I like to fake that I feel confident with my parenting.
You're so funny, Yaffi. No, you're awesome. You're so good with it. I love them. They're so cute. So, and I see like on your Instagram also, and you have Toddler Test Kitchen where you help.
Yes.
If you want to tell us about it, you could tell us about it.
Yeah. That's my local Phoenix class, but I plan to take over the world. So it's a culinary adventure for kids ages 2 through 6, and I think that aside from having family dinner, another big way to create positive associations with food is to cook with your kids. And sometimes that's chocolate chip cookies, and that's super fun because of the tactile nature of the dough, and you can like squeeze it between your hands. That's really fun. And sometimes we do things like DIY miso soup where I did this at the most recent class where kids chopped up their own vegetables and put it in a cup, and we had miso paste and we made
Yeah,
ramen noodle soup out of it.
so cute.
And it's just fun because kids are more likely to be interested in food that they've been interacting with in a stress-free level.
Right.
And even if you're perfect at division of responsibility, which by the way, none of us actually are, we just
Oh,
do our
goodness.
best.
Right. We do our best. That's it.
We do our best, and that's all that can be expected. So it's important for people to know that too, that even us experts, we also mess up sometimes.
Right.
But if you're doing division of responsibility at your table, then you have a lot less stress, but you're still sitting at a table during a mealtime and there's a plate in front of that child, and that alone could cause stress. So
Definitely.
if you instead change up the location and it's before mealtime, they're not really hungry yet, and they're touching things and smelling things and tasting things when that's not that they're not supposed to taste things, it's just that that's not the objective in that moment. They create a fun experience with that, and it's just really fun to see their faces light up when they made something delicious.
So the common theme really is like creating this environment of like positivity and like family time, happiness, growth, and that therefore, besides for that just being fun and awesome, it creates this like environment where kids feel safe to try new foods and to ask you questions about the food as opposed to you being like, this is good for you, you better eat it.
Right, right, because it's not like carrots are good for your eyesight. It's carrots are orange. What
Right.
else is orange? Where do
Right.
carrots grow? How do we pull it out of the ground? What
Right.
other kind of animals eat carrots? Like
Right.
food is fascinating, and if you can get into that aspect and share that with your family, that's really a positive way forward.
Right. So it's the first principle of intuitive eating is reject the diet mentality.
Mhm.
And I actually just like wrote a blog post on this that you know how there's like so much attention now on like like cuisine and like fancy food and like cooking stars and all the types of things, it really could be because of this on the back end, like the dieting addiction. So like we have this like restrictive mentality, therefore we have this obsessive food obsession, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I think it's fun. I think like Chopped is really fun, and I think like food competitions are really fun. But I think that the overarching theme of this all is like a lot of like balance and like positivity and realisticness. Like I always say this, like if I sat down with my kids and I gave them fish sticks, like tonight we had fish sticks, whole wheat noodles, and peppers. One of my kids ate like only fish sticks. Okay, no, she didn't touch her peppers. One of my kids ate only noodles, didn't touch anything else. But I was calm. I did an awesome job. Even if I wasn't calm, but I'm just saying, like, that is my goal. I want to be a happy mother. I want to be a calm mother. I want to be a pleasant mother. Sometimes I'm going to make like chicken, like fresh dinner, and sometimes I'm not. And like, that's okay. And like, I think that intuitive eating is like where we really reject that diet mentality, that perfectionistic mentality, that all the things that come with it that like kind of like harm us and do so much like bad and negative. And
Mm-hmm.
we incorporate like what you were saying, like how could I add to my nutrition, what could I add, what would make me feel good, what could I try, you know?
Right. And we focus a lot on what happens at the table also, but if we think about, take a step back and recognize that parenthood is really hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard for everyone, regardless of what their social media feed looks like.
Right.
Parenthood is not easy for anyone. And
Right.
so sometimes getting takeout is the healthier choice. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you are making grilled chicken and roasted potatoes and zucchini noodles or whatever it is in your head that is the perfect meal, if that comes with a lot of stress and a lot of yelling and a lot of like, and you finally get it on the table and oh my God, everybody sit down and that's not healthy
Right.
because you're not coming to that meal in a healthy perspective. So in that case, recognizing, hey, today was a busy day. I'm in an awful mood. I'm going to order takeout.
Right.
That's a healthy perspective.
Right. And when my clients are feeling like really, really stuck and they're like in my office crying because they're like, oh my God, it was Hanukkah and I ate 5 donuts. And like, and then they obviously there's like that whole backstory of like their kids were home. I totally get it. Oh my God. Their kids were home and like, they haven't been blah, blah, blah. They haven't been able to go to the grocery store and all these things. It's like, okay, okay, I kind of like lost my train of thought, but, but basically, okay, what were you just talking about? Oh, takeout, right. Basically, like you want to like approach everything with like self-compassion and like realize that like you're a human being and like sorry, this is what I was going to say. You could ask yourself, what would you say to your daughter? If your daughter or your son, your child, your adult child calls you, maybe they're not an adult now, but they're going to be an adult and they call you and they're like, Mommy, I am the worst person in the entire world. I ate 4 donuts today. Blah, 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 blah. What would you say to that child? Like, you would be like, you poor thing. Like, I'm so happy you had donuts to comfort you. Like, never. Like, besides for the fact that, like, you're going crazy, the kids are off, you don't have a schedule, you're, like, so upset at yourself because you ate 4 donuts one day out of the year or 2 days out of the year or
Mm-hmm.
however many days. But, like, in the bigger picture, in the grand scheme of things, like, how bad is that? Like, maybe it's not even bad at all. Like, maybe it's
Right.
positive.
Right, it's true, but how much more delicious would those donuts have tasted if you could sit around with your kids and enjoy every bite? Or wait until they go to sleep and eat it slowly and enjoy every bite, you
Right.
know?
So they're
And
not like
I
begging
think
you for half of it.
yeah, and I think this is also where some of the social media representation of intuitive eating can get a little bit off track. We're so intent on counterbalancing all of the diet talk that sometimes it looks like intuitive eating posts are more like
Right.
eat a donut now, eat a donut.
Right.
And
Yeah.
really the whole thing is it's just about don't listen to everyone who has something to say about food because not everyone who eats is an expert in nutrition.
Right.
And it's just about finding that balance and listening to your body and letting your biology rather than your psychology make all of your food choices.
Right. And I think like before when you were talking about like the stomach acid and like the whole biology of your stomach and the lower esophageal sphincter, like the things that we learned about, did I say it right? Things that we
Yeah.
learned about in school, like I know what you're talking about just because I went to school for many years, but like a lot of people who are posting things on social media, like they don't have any science background, and nutrition really is a science. So like
Right.
it's kind of hard to, like, I know that like it's tempting to like see a post on social media and somebody's eating like whatever they want and being like, this is intuitive eating, like life's great, and
Right.
then like people are trying to replicate that and they're like, this feels awful, I feel out of control, and that's really not what intuitive eating is. So
Right.
it's important to really educate yourself and get like the right type of information from the right professionals.
Right. Right. And so intuitive eating, once you really get past the beginning stages of it, it really is eating how much of whatever you want whenever you want. But that's not, it doesn't look the same as when you're coming at it straight from diet culture, because someone who's been dieting and restricting for a long time might think, oh, I'm going to eat whatever I want, however many times I want, however much I want. That's just going to be a whole pile of donuts.
Right.
But that's not what it is once you've learned to ditch all of that psychology. Once you've learned to say, oh, this is what my body wants, this is the experience I'm craving right now, you're going to sometimes have a donut and sometimes have it, it's going to lead you to a place of variety. And so at that point, once you get to that point, eating whatever you want is going to look very, very different than what you think it will look like coming into it at the beginning.
Right. And actually, I'm going to just ask you this because, like, I get this question a lot in my office, is that, like, I know it's a hard question, but, like, because we're so used to using weight as a health indicator, how can we measure someone's health? Is there a measurable way?
I think a lot of it is really subjective. We have to go back to our definition of health. Right now, our definition of health is very physical in nature. And when we can expand our definition of health to include the mind and the body and the spirit, then that's going to give us a much bigger picture. Now, how can you measure if you're spiritually healthy?
Right.
There is no objective measure of spiritual health. That's going to look different from person to person. It's going to look different whether they're affiliated with a particular religion or a particular sect of that religion, and if they have a community within that sect of that religion in that area. I mean, it's extremely personal. When we talk about health of the mind, that's a little bit easier because you can talk a little bit more objectively about stress levels and about coping mechanisms. That's a bit of a harder science. When we get to the physical, then you have blood levels, you have I mean, cholesterol to some extent, although it's
Right.
way overused as a measure of health,
Right.
and your vitamin D levels and your hydration, your bone density. I mean, there are objective measures of health. It's just that weight is not nearly as important as we've been led to believe, and it's more of a symptom as opposed to a goal.
Right. And I think that, like, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, like, intuitive eating, one of the goals is like to give someone autonomy, because dieting takes that away. And
Mhm.
if we could say to someone like, you're going to measure your health, like you're the only one that really knows like how you're feeling mentally or how you're feeling physically, or like, besides for the weight, let's talk about the weight, like how do you feel when you eat XYZ? Let's really like delve into that, because this isn't about me as a dietitian, this is really about you and how your body feels, and the
Right.
dieting tells you how you feel. Like I've had so many clients tell me like, you don't know how long I was on this diet and everybody tells me that it works, and even like the person who was like guiding me through it was like, yeah, in 4 weeks you won't even feel those pangs of hunger. And I'm like, they know that it's ridiculous, because like they're experiencing like, but I'm starving. Like, how can you
Yeah.
tell me I'm not starving? I'm feeling physically starving. So that's like,
Yes.
intuitive eating does the opposite. Like, this is what hunger feels like, and this is what hunger can feel like, and this is how does it feel like for you, let's talk about it, let's track it, so that they could
Yeah.
really gain that sense of autonomy.
You know, it's really interesting when you look at things from with a different historical lens. So if we look at that and the health coach, quote unquote, saying, "Oh, you're not going to feel this in a few weeks," it just reminds me of the female suffragettes when they were having their everything they went through in order to secure voting rights for women, and they were fasting and they were going on hunger strikes. And something that people don't know about that is that you do stop feeling hungry after a while, but that's a coping mechanism that your body uses to prevent so much pain. And so what the suffragettes would do is they would They would go on these hunger strikes, and they'd be jailed, and the guards at the jail would wait. They knew how long it would be until they stopped feeling hunger, and they would force feed them, and then leave them alone so that they would have to start the painful process all over again. So that's been used. It's a double-edged sword. You're supposed to feel hunger. It's supposed to tell you something.
Right.
If you no longer feel hunger, doing the same things that you were doing before and you felt hunger, that's a sign that something's wrong, not that something's working.
Right.
And if you start an eating plan and you notice that you're getting rashes or you're getting sweating, shaking, these are not symptoms of your body cleansing.
Right.
It's symptoms of your body in distress,
Right.
telling you to eat something.
It's scary, Yaffi, because like this is what is told on social media. Like, okay, Hanukkah's over, let's detox, let's cleanse. And I really, I just want to say this. I really make it a very important point on my Instagram and my social media and everything. Like, I never want to bash anyone. I understand why people are obsessed with health, weight loss. I totally get it, and like it's nobody's fault really. It's really like just the society that we live in. But it is frustrating as a clinician to see like got a detox after Hanukkah. It's like so painful because what you're saying is like they're actually doing the opposite. Like when you get those like going on the ketogenic diet, like the ketogenic diet was created for like children with like epilepsy to help them with like these symptoms, and now we're using it as like this awesome way to like cleanse your body and like create ketones in your body, even though they're like horrible for you.
Right. And in the hospital, when someone's admitted, there are all these tests that are done, and one of them is testing for ketones.
Right.
And that's not a good thing when it comes out positive. That's not
Right.
considered clinically a positive.
Right. So it's just important. I really want people to know like there's like so much science behind nutrition, and there's so much education that goes into becoming a dietitian, and like it is tempting to like follow like what you see on social media or see something that's like selling you like what does dieting really sell you? It sells you like happiness, acceptance, love, like all the things that you really want. And like I guess we are really here to tell you like there's other ways to do that, and like just the way that you're talking about it is so positive and so like encouraging. Like you could like just the fact that you said like the number one thing to do is to have like family meals, like that is like gives me like it makes me feel so like happy. Like that's what I would want in my family, you know, to have like happy meals with my kids.
That's the number one thing. And there's also something that you've touched on a few times, and it's that you have to know where your information is coming from. If someone, we talk about this all the time, if someone calls themselves a dietitian, it means something solid. It means at least 4 years of a nutrition degree, followed by a practicum that was heavily supervised, followed by a national exam, followed by lots of continuing education. And if someone says they're a nutritionist, it could mean that they have a degree in nutrition. It could mean they have a PhD in nutrition.
Right.
It means they didn't take that path to become a dietitian, which is also a valid choice. But it also could mean that they read an article and have ordained themselves a nutrition expert. Right. And I want to bring up something specific, and you can cut it out if it's too specific. But the whole celery juice thing, which is now apparently being replaced by cucumber juice, also not tasty. That's from a site called Medical Medium. You've heard of the site?
No, I haven't.
Okay, everyone's heard of the celery juice thing, but it came from Medical Medium, and this is just, it makes me laugh. It's such a perfect example of where you should take your information. The site named themselves Medical Medium. A medical medium is someone who, this is popular in the late 1800s with the spiritualist movement in North America and somewhat in England, where they would have seances. Instead of having a doctor, they would have a seance, and the person leading a seance for a medical purpose was a medical medium. And so instead of using any kind of medical training, they would communicate with ghosts in order to diagnose someone and come up with a treatment plan. This is how the site named itself, or how whoever named the site chose their name, that we are getting information from the air.
Right.
So,
okay,
celery is delicious. Celery juice, if you enjoy it, go for it, but it's not going to save your life. Cucumber juice is the same thing. I like cucumbers. I'm not interested in cucumber juice. So you got to look at this stuff and think, where did this come from? Is this harmful? That's another thing. Drinking celery juice is for the most part, not harmful. Okay, great. it's a waste of time and money, but it's not going to hurt you. There are things out there that will hurt you. Being on 1,000-calorie diet while breastfeeding will hurt you and your baby, by the way.
Right.
There are things out there that are painful and will harm your body. So it's important to keep that in mind and to stay away from those things.
Actually, interesting. Like, if you could just like explain, like, I know that a lot of times at least I do, I like to like post, like, you don't have to cleanse, like your liver will cleanse for you, but maybe you could explain here, like, how does that work, like biologically, like when, like, I mean, I know, but if you could just explain it in like a way that people could understand.
Yeah, well, everything goes into your blood, and your liver and your kidneys filter your blood. And so it's good to have a lot of hydration. Holding up my bottle of water there. It's good to have a lot of hydration to help with that, but you don't need any other product. Your body has been designed with 2 kidneys and 1 liver, and your liver is huge, by the way, in order to cleanse your blood, in order to clean your body from the things that are not desired. And yeah, we are exposed to a lot more these days than we used to be, and our bodies adapt. And so it's good to have a variety of things so that you're not exposed to the same things all the time. So let's say there's one type of pesticide that's on this type of food, but if you have a variety of food, you're not really exposed to that much of that type. You're exposed to a variety, and your body can handle that a lot better. Your body will flush the stuff out. And we know that this is effective because we have a longer lifespan than we used to because of modern medicine. There are certain methods that do have some evidence behind them, as far as I don't know if my husband's listening at the top of the stairs right now, but he's Russian, and they're very big on using a sauna to help cleanse the body. And that's using sweat. And that's more of an ancient technique that does have some proof behind it that can help your body to sweat out certain things that are not as desirable. Your body's going to do that anyway. It's designed to do that. Your liver and kidneys will get out all these toxins. It's not as much of a concern. You really do not need some kind of powder. Fireworks. You don't need some kind of powder that costs $30 a bottle to cleanse your system.
It's so interesting because like you're saying that we have like a longer life expectancy now, and it's just like, it's so funny because like everyone's like, we're dying, like the obesity epidemic. Like, I'm not saying that there isn't one. I'm just saying, like, it's just so crazy, like the way that the world's hyped up. Like, okay, let's all go on the caveman diet because like they were super healthy, like, but they died when they were 35. Like, we don't really know that. Like, we just sort of like, I don't know what it is. I mean, I think I do know what it is, but we're just like clinging to anything because like, because I think diet culture and I think the diet industry just is really feeding on the insecurities of people, that they want to be skinnier because skinnier equals good in our society. And it's really like, I guess like why I do this work and why a lot of us do this work is because like it's so harmful to so many people, and we really want to make it more positive, and food could be such a positive experience. Like, God made us have to eat, but he didn't have to make it pleasurable, and he made it pleasurable like as a as a way to reinforce us to eat.
Right. Even the man in the desert, which was supposed to be like, that's the closest thing that we have had to straight fuel for the body, tastes like fried honey. That should tell us something.
Right. Same with we always say this example: when a baby's born, the first thing a baby does is drink milk with lactose, sweet lactose, like
it's sweetened. Yeah.
So that's just like a normal thing that humans like sweet things. We all like, and we all enjoy eating, and it's like nothing to feel shame about. And I guess like maybe getting over that hump is like the hardest part, because we've been conditioned to feel shame about the way that we eat. But like, Yaffi's here to tell you not to.
No, eat and enjoy it and move on with your life. Try to experience different flavors. I tell my kids all the time, so you want chocolate chip cookies? Great. I have a big poster that has a picture of the tongue on it, and in different areas of the tongue we taste different flavors. Well, we have to do a little hopscotch around the tongue. We're going to taste some sweet? Great. Let's taste some sour. Let's taste some bitter or some salty. And the very middle of the tongue, that's the biggest part of the tongue, is umami, which is a savory flavor. It's not that sugar is bad. It's that we have to taste a variety of different flavors throughout the day in order to be our healthiest.
I really love that, and I love like the food interaction and like the fun part of it, and like I'm even thinking about getting that poster because like it's really fun to like include your kids and like the like I teach my kids all the time while I'm cooking, and like I mean obviously as we said we're not perfect in the division of responsibility, but like it's just so cute to see like when I teach them this is a protein, this is a carbohydrate, this is how it helps your body, like they absorb it in like such an either neutral or positive way, and it's just like such a great like tool
Right.
for like happiness, growth, like
Yeah.
bonding in the house.
And on that note, we can answer those questions when they ask. If you're going to teach, they're going to ask. And if they ask you something, you can answer it straightforward. I did an Instagram post that's my boys noticed the calorie sign on the almond milk. And so I did a post. It says 30 calories per serving. And if your 4-year-old asks what this means, this is what you tell them. And if your 17-year-old asks what this means, it's what you tell them. And just like any other bodily function, for example, where do babies come from? You're going to give them a different answer at different ages. And
Right,
it's always going to be the truth.
right,
It's just how detailed of the truth,
right. That's a
you
really
know?
good, that's a really good comparison. Yeah. Anyway, so Yaffi, please tell us where we can find you so that everyone could direct their nutrition questions to Yaffi because she's the best.
Oh, I'm only the best because I have friends like you.
Oh.
And I'm not the best. So
You have a
anyway,
really good way of answering questions that it could be easily understood. I just want you to know.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You can find me on Facebook at Baby Bloom Nutrition and Toddler Test Kitchen AZ, and on Instagram at toddler.testkitchen. And I have, you can see all of my videos. I have Naptime Nutrition, which is also now a podcast on Stitcher
Yay,
and Spotify and iTunes.
yay.
But if you go to naptimenutrition.com, I have a lot of videos. I think about 4 years of weekly live videos.
Wow.
It's a lot of content there, so hit the search bar and look for whatever you're looking for. And if I haven't covered it, please email me at yaffi@babybloomnutrition.com, because if I haven't covered it, I really want to. I have a whole list of stuff. Today I covered food addiction. Are you addicted to food? And
Wow.
spoiler alert, no, but go check out why you're not addicted to food.
I'm excited to hear that. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to share for today?
Well, I have an ebook coming out. I
Yay.
didn't tell you that part.
No, you did it. That's so exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's an ebook that's just 15 mindful activities that you can do at the table, just ways to positively interact with your kids when they're misbehaving rather than screaming at them. Here's a game we can play with our food to enjoy it together.
That is so awesome. I can't wait to get it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for being here, Yaffi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored.
It was awesome.